In the biblical imagination, 7 is a number of fullness and completion. But when the Bible wants to tell us that God is really excited about something, that God has a big picture plan, the Bible talks about 7 times 7. And one of the places where God has that kind of big picture vision is in laying out God's ecological economics in Leviticus 25. So we've already talked about how God's economy is based on a 7-year cycle that's looking towards that 7th Sabbath year when we're going to put a pause on all practices that tax entire creation. And we are not going to make profit in that 7th year. And instead, we're going to learn to rest in provision while foregoing profit. And where we're going to just learn to rest and extend that rest beyond ourselves to everyone and everything in our ecosystems. But that 7th year is also imagined to come in 7s. And when 7 of those cycles have come, and the land and us as people, as economists, as people participating in God's ecological economy, come to the 7th of those 7th year cycles, we are encouraged to think about a big Sabbath rest, what the Bible calls a jubilee year, a year of joy and celebration where those same Sabbath year practices are going to happen, but something even bigger is going to happen economically as well. The things that get added to that 7 times 7th year, that 50th year jubilee, that are on top of what we would already be doing in Sabbath years are this. Anyone who has come to be pushed down and pressed down or even enslaved by debt is to be freed from that debt in that jubilee year. Anything that you might have purchased, any kinds of property that you might have purchased that were gotten when somebody else was down on their luck, when somebody else was having a hard time and had to sell because of that hard time, any of that property is going to be restored to the original owner. And we're told that as we free other people from debt, and as we give back property that we might have gotten when someone else was down on their luck, our families are going to be restored. We're going to return to our families and to our homes. And it will be a year of joy. It will be a year of praise. And it will be a year of rest beyond what we had even tasted and experienced in the rest of those Sabbath years leading up to the Jubilee. One of the main principles that's repeated as God tries to lay out this vision for what it might mean to engage in an economy that has its eyes towards Jubilee, its eyes towards a 7 times 7 in which everyone is freed from crushing debt. God says a few times, do not take each other for granted. Do not take advantage of each other. And then God will just repeat that over and over again, that at the bedrock of this ecological economy is that we do not take advantage of one another. And that when we do, we take time periodically to step back, assess, and make it right, even if it comes at the loss of property. It's pretty startling. And one of the things I want to notice here is that if we want to acknowledge, honestly, that our profit has sometimes come at the expense of another's debt, we are going to end up in relationships in which we are acknowledging our own harms, ones that we have committed and ones that have been done against us. What seems like in Leviticus 25, a call to certain economic practices around debt and around forgiveness of debt, is actually a call to relationship, a call to acknowledging the ways debt practices are harming some people among us and helping and benefiting others. Which is to say that if we're going to take this ecological economics seriously, we're going to be entering into relationships over and over and over again in which forgiveness is required. When Jesus is asked in Matthew 28:21, how often we have got to forgive the brothers and sisters around us, Peter's the one asking the question. And Peter says, Lord, how many times should I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered him, I tell you, not 7 times, but 70 times 7 times. 70 times 7 times. Leviticus 25 is inviting you to imagine a new economic system in which debts are periodically forgiven, in which we name honestly that sometimes our gains have come at the loss of other people, and in which we periodically clear the playing field so that all of creation and people of all walks of life can all experience rest, health, and freedom. It's a big dream. It's a 7 times 7 dream. God is inviting you to dream big about God's economy and God's ecology. But Jesus is inviting you to forgive yourself and others even bigger. Jesus is inviting us to a kind of forgiveness, a kind of radical forgiveness, 70 times 7, that I think we're going to need if we want to get serious about the kind of economics that the Pope and that the scriptures are calling us to take seriously in the next 7 years. When we combine God's call in Leviticus to dream big with Jesus's call in Matthew to forgive even bigger, I think we have the resources and vision that we need to step boldly into a kind of economy that we have maybe never practiced before, to risk our own property and our own profit, to risk those in relationship with people maybe we've never been brave enough to name that we have harmed, or maybe even never noticed that we have harmed, and to enter those relationships bravely, knowing that in God's economy, there is always forgiveness for those who are seeking to move forward into God's call. So may it be.